Welcome to another episode of Next Meridian Expedition.
In this video, we wanted to talk about an important topic. A few months ago, we asked on Instagram if people would want to do a world tour like we're doing right now. And for those who answered yes, we asked them, why didn't you leave yet? And we collected some of those responses and we wanted to discuss the big categories that came back. We'll review the main categories of answers we received and we will say how we overcame some of those challenges to live on our world tour and how some of the challenges maybe other travelers are overcoming every day.
And of course, if we don't answer everything, because we surely won't, we're going to make it pretty short. Just leave a comment below and we'll try and get back to you as soon as possible.
Number 1, money.
So for the money, it's the biggest one that came out. I think 60% or 70% of the people said that money was the problem. It was a problem for us as well when we first thought about leaving. For a trip like this, there's a lot of planning that goes into thinking. For the money, for us, the best way that we had figured out was to do a simple calculation. It was to go, what is our revenue together minus our fixed costs, so the apartment, electricity, Wi-Fi, subscriptions to like Netflix or mobile phones, and then how much money did we need as pocket money, sort of allowance for the month. So that would be going out to bars, going out to see friends, taking the metro, having small weekends, things like that. And then what did that equal to? Whatever chunk was left, that was what we were saving. And then, so that was the first step. So we figured out X euros is what we could save per month, and we would put that in a separate account, joint account. Secondly is we looked at the two variables. The first variable is all our fixed costs. Can we get a smaller apartment? Can we remove some subscriptions? So like, we might have HBO, Netflix and something else. Maybe you just need one. Maybe you can change Wi-Fi to a cheaper one. I don't know. Figure out what in your fixed costs you might be able to cut down on. And secondly, the variables on your monthly budget. Maybe you can do less restaurants, maybe cut down on bars, maybe do 1 weekend out of 2. So then you create a new calculation, which is sort of your theoretical amount that you'd like, and you see what is the difference and try to see how you can cut to get there. So that was the first method. The second method is we sold everything we had, as much as we could. So of course, selling t-shirts and stuff will get you only 5 euros. It might help, but not really. You have to look at bigger equipment. So for example, did you have an old PlayStation somewhere? Did you have a second speaker? Did you have an old laptop that you were not using? Maybe an old phone? Anything that might have value. I would guess anything 50 euros and above is super interesting. And so we tried to sell as much as possible and kept only the essentials. And then of course, just before the trip, we sold everything. And that, at the end, gave us another bunch of money. So those are the two ways we did. And finally, depending on how many per month you're able to put on the side, you calculate how many months do I need to reach my goal amount. And that's how we decided to leave on April, because we were thinking by that time we would have sold a lot of stuff, we would have reached the amount of revenue, and then you try and figure out the rest when you're on the road.
And there's the money you save before the trip, and there's the money you don't spend on the trip, which reduce the budget that you need. So it's two ways also to see at this.
Number 2, family, partners and kids.
That was the second biggest category of answers that we received. This is a difficult one, especially when especially when the partner is not on board. We were lucky in our case because we were all both very much motivated to go for this trip. Since being on the road, we also met people who found ways to adjust to that. You might not be able to convince your partner to live for 3 years and do every country with you, but we met people who came up with pretty original solutions. Some people would go for shorter trips in selected locations where the partner was comfortable with. And we also met someone who would be living like for the full run, and then the partner would just fly in and fly out for several weeks at the time, just for the location he or she was interested in. For kids, we were actually super surprised. On the road we met quite a big amount of families, either with small kids or with even teenagers. And I think there's more and more example on YouTube, Instagram of families traveling and all together, like three kids often. And I mean, they figured it out. They figured out a way to have school working. Eventually those kids, they speak language, like foreign language every day. So you just need to get them running on like maybe the basic topics like mathematics or literature or things like this. But eventually we were very surprised to see how natural it was for those families, and it seemed to be working super well. So kids, from what we saw on the road, doesn't seem to be that big of an issue for the people who really decided they wanted to do it. That we also learned is based on how easy it is to get your kid out of the traditional schooling system, and in France there's remote schooling system that is recognized by government, so maybe that makes a difference as well. The other aspect of the family being a limit to living for that kind of project, and we heard it from other people of our age or even older, is a general family environment where your family is telling you that it's not a good idea, it's not a good idea for your future, it's not a good idea because it's maybe a bit egoist for your family because you're not going to see them for several months at the time. Again, we've been very lucky. From our personal experience, we have family that supported us, but it's been super hard on some other people we know not to have the support of the family to live for this kind of trip. In that case, I mean, there's people you can convince and people you cannot, but eventually you live for yourself and not necessarily for your family. And what we've seen on our end is that we're trying to bring value to our family through this trip. So I have nieces and nephews, and I feel like a mission to kind of communicate everything I see and everything I learn during my travel to them, so that they get inspired, get to learn new things. And I feel like for maybe the parents, you can do the same thing, and sometimes in some families it takes a bit more effort than others, but eventually we feel, and our family feel, we're bringing value by doing what we do. But that's something that is individual to each family.
And actually our friends and family are even more connected with us than before because they see us on Instagram every day. They see us on YouTube every Saturday. So they actually know much more of our life than they did before. And one requirement that actually our families wanted is to have a satellite phone, so that it was security mostly. Like if we were good on security with them, then they were happy. So we had to get a satellite phone, which anyway we would have gotten, and that's it. Number 3, security.
So security is a big issue. I mean, when you have fears about like your own security or the security of your loved ones, it's hard to like take the step of living for that kind of travel. I think since we left 9 months ago, we have identified a few different elements about that. The first one is that you need to ask information on security to people who are actually in the country or actually traveling in the country. What we've noticed is that many people have a lot of opinion on other countries, and it might have been true at a certain moment in time, but sometimes it's information that dates back like 30 or 40 years ago. So they will tell you, no, it's too dangerous, and they will generalize to the entire country, and then you ask travelers, because you see a lot of travelers going there, and you see that it's not at all a problem to travel in certain regions. So the first thing to do is get information from people in the country. I guess the best example is Mexico. We've got so many negative feedback on Mexico, and what we notice is that most of the people stating those opinions about the security in Mexico had never set foot in Mexico, or like decades ago. So that's really the key. Then the second element is planning. Not all countries are safe everywhere, and with good plannings you can really avoid the risks that you're scared of. So in our case, we would check if there's certain parts of the country that are more dangerous than others, and then you would plan your routes accordingly, depending on the amount of risks you're willing to take. So planning is really key. Let's say you're scared of sleeping in a certain region, you plan ahead an accommodation. You don't feel like doing wild camping, you find a hotel or you find a camping spot, etc., etc. Maybe start with places that you trust. So We've seen people who traveled only in Europe for 3 years and they had amazing journeys, and it brought them the confidence level to maybe adventure a bit further and kill kind of those doubts and fears that they had, because the way of life of landing is not natural for everyone. And for me, for example, sleeping on a wild camping spot somewhere I have no clue about, and I heard in that region it's a bit dangerous, I'm not always super at ease, but with good planning and asking the opinion of other travelers, it really puts me at rest. Number 4, work and career.
That's a tough one because work is sense of security. It's the normal structure of life that everybody goes through, and quitting a job or losing that sort of security, it quickly stresses people out. And also having to confront your boss and saying, hey, I'm gonna quit. Why? For world travel is always a strange one. It's not easy to decide what is best, to go travel now or to go travel after when you're retired. That's really only your opinion that can decide that. In our case, we decided now, for many reasons, vehicles won't be the same, the world it's changing fast. We loved our jobs, both of us, but we knew the moment was now, and each year you keep getting more responsibilities, you increase pay, you increase responsibilities, you get motivated for the next steps of lives. So we said we feel like it's now and we really want to do it now, so we went for it. Quitting your job is never easy, but try it. You'll see it's pretty fun, because once you've quit and you're in the car, right away you understand that you've done the right choice. And if not, then you can always quit the travel and then try and come back to a job. Sometimes, depending on your career plan, you can also sort of cheat it by saying, you know what, between the 2 jobs I'm just gonna throw in this little travel. We took 3 years, but you could do 6 months, you could do anything. And so that's sort of how I convinced as well myself that it's the right moment to go. And yeah.
It takes a lot of self-confidence to quit a job. Like, it takes a lot of assessing your own value, and also reconsidering what kind of professional life you want to have. In my case, it was really hard to quit. I heard Nick saying it's fun to quit. I literally cried the day I quit. It was super hard, one because I loved my job, but also because I was pretty scared of, finding another job. I was feeling I was achieving something where I was, and I was very scared of my ability to find the exact great condition in another point of life with this big gap in between. And then Nick told me a few things that reassured me. It was you're going to learn new skills, you're actually increasing your value by changing. You don't, if you stay always in the same path, you don't necessarily increase your value and get to progress in your status and your job qualifications. And that really made me think, do I want the type of career that I see people who spend the entire life in that organization have? Or do I aspire more to people who have varied kind of careers? And it was really the second element. So after 4 years and a half in my current job, I was like, okay, that should give me enough elements to be self-confident enough to quit. And it was a big relief, and now I'm not scared anymore because we are learning new skills on the road, and I know I will be able to reinvest those skills in the future. But it was very hard for me, and I'm very thankful for Nick's vision that it was better, even on a professional level, to quit at that specific point in time, because he's right on that point. So we did that.
And the moment we closed the door and we started driving, did you feel like it was the right decision?
Yeah, totally.
Cool. Number 5, passport and nationality.
So when we thought about this one, very few people actually mentioned it, but it's probably the one thing you cannot do anything about. It's about where you're born and where your who are your parents, literally, and those things you don't control. And there is a real unfairness in terms of what your passport allows you to do. In our case, with European passports, we're able to get visas for most countries in the world fairly quickly and fairly easily. And we are able to just simply access those countries one way or another. When you have a passport from another country, usually from the global south, you might wait months or years to even get a tourist visa for some places, and in some certain cases you cannot even enter a certain country. There's no procedures to get a visa. So we just wanted to add this category here because we don't have the solution for that. I think it's important to recognize that this is probably one of the only real limitation to go on that kind of trip. Number 6, the mindset.
This goes a lot with everything we've just said, probably also a lot with the money part. If you put your mind to it, then everything else will sort of move forward as well with it. Really, it's you trying to find every effort to every barrier to try and break it down and move forward and try to find a solution to reach to that goal. And so first of all, having really that motivation and that mindset. If you're doing it half speed and you're half putting your foot in, then I think at some point you'll let go as soon as something is too complicated. It could be for any project, but for this trip, having the right mindset of saying, okay, I want to quit, I want to do this trip, I'm ready to lose my salary, I'm ready to say bye to my friends, my grandparents, my parents, and I'm ready to jump into this risk, but at the same time this beauty, then I think it will make it much easier for you to get there. So a lot of ways to recomfort yourself. So the way we had done it is to watch a lot of YouTube videos from other travelers, which gave us so much motivation. We checked as well on Instagram. We wrote to some of these people and said, hey, how's it going on your travel? How do you guys feel? What are sort of the things you're tired or what are you missing from home? Just ask the sort of doubts that you have. A lot of people won't answer, but a lot of people will answer you if you have questions. You have a lot of network nowadays to get as much information to figure out your doubts. And then of course it's all about the mindset and just getting it done.
Yeah, setting it as a priority.
7, the conclusion.
With this video, we cannot go in detail of like all the specific situations. So some people have financial constraints and family constraints that we cannot even imagine, and that really prevents them to live for that kind of project. I guess we're speaking for the ones who feel they could, but you know, they have those like doubts and they're not sure they can save the money. Like, we're speaking to those people, like there's always a way if you put your mind to it, and that's what Nick was saying. It's really about putting it as a priority and putting all the efforts to make the stars align and be able to live. And I guess another element is you don't need to live for 4 years and 100 countries, or you know, you could live slowly, you know, like 3 months, 3 countries, and then another 3 months, 2 years later, another 3 countries. If you have conditions, financial, family conditions that prevent you from living for an extended period of time. And it would be liberating to actually, you know, tick that box, complete that dream. And in our case, it was not easy in the preparation phase, but we are now very confident we took the right decision. And the worst thing that can happen is what? You don't want to travel anymore?
Yeah.
Then you go home. You go home, you find a new job, and you go back to your normal life. That's the worst that can happen.
That is true. Well, I hope that this has been interesting and has been useful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below, and I guess we'll see you in the next video. Bye!
Bye!